Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton, and on this episode, we will be talking about the NFL draft. Yes, I know you're tired of talking about the NFL draft, but hey, I'm going to beat you over the head just a little bit more with a little bit more information. Of course, joining me on this episode is someone that is very, very in-depth with her knowledge of the NFL. Most notably, the Cowboys, a team that people love to hate or hate to love, whichever you want to choose. But, definitely want to thank you. She's a returning guest, Miss Iisha Morrison. What's going on?
What's up, man? Happy to be here. We were just talking about how your show is expanding and how well you're doing. So I'm happy to be a part of it, and thank you for sharing your platform with me.
Of course, always. For those that don't know, this platform, when it first started, there was a mission. It was a mission to, I'm always going to have, and black women's backs. I'm always going to have their backs, and I'm always going to have them on my show. So that's, if you don't like that, you might as well go ahead and turn the channel, turn your TV off. As
See yourself out.
Say. Yeah, that too. But as far as this show, of course, we're going to talk NFL draft. We are going to talk a little bit about the team you love to support and talk about. That'd be the Dallas Cowboys. You did say that, but I did say that, but you didn't give me no smile. But I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm cracking up. I'm just cracking jokes. But anyway, we're going to get into the Dallas Cowboys and the AFC South on this episode. But like every episode, I started off with a get off your chest segment. We're going to stay in the NFC East with that one. And then we're going to talk about the Tush push. Now, for those that have been paying attention, the Tush push is a play that is pretty much undefeated in NFL football. Eventually it's going to win. Of course, you got Jalen Hurts who squats like 1,000 pounds. You got an O-line that can pretty much blow you off the ball and get lower than you. And you got Dallas Goedert who probably comes behind and pushes you in sometimes too. But you got all these different pieces that include the Tush push. And the NFL has been visiting it at the owners' meetings, their NFL meetings in Florida, talking about potentially banning it. In Green Bay was the team that first brought it up. And, I don't even want to get into their comments or whatever, but I do want to talk about Sean McDermott's comments. Now, if you don't know who Sean McDermott is, he is the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. And he said, and I'm going to paraphrase it, basically that, there's potential injuries or future injuries in the game and, and these different things, and funny thing is, his team actually does a version of the Tush push with Josh Allen. So, it's funny that he's saying this. And then also, the funniest part of it is he's predicting injuries in the future. I found that quite interesting when I'm looking at this. Okay, and they're not moving from way far distances away from each other. They aren't like going and hitting each other's knees like cut blocks would do with you, someone engaging you up top and cut below. So to me, I'm like, they're just basically making a play. The strong man wins. It's like Greco-Roman wrestling, but with football pads on in this play. And to me, I think it's kind of much ado about nothing. It is a play that, to me, I look at it as they can do it, you can't do it, and now you want to take it out because it's an advantage for them. But, newsflash, there are advantages in football. Things happen, and teams have other pieces and players that you don't have. For example, not a lot of teams have an A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. This is what it is. You can't penalize them and say, hey, you can't run but 5-yard routes or 10-yard routes. You can't run a go route. So to me, it's kind of silly. I mean, eventually if it does get banned, now it's been tabled right now to be revisited in May. But if it does get banned, it gets banned, and I'm pretty sure the Eagles will figure some other things out. They still have Saquon Barkley back there, by the way. But To me, I find it quite interesting, and I find it quite funny that we're saying future injuries and things like that. You know, it's kind of like it reminds me of that Tom Cruise movie where they were talking about future crimes and arresting people for future crimes. That's exactly where this is going, in my opinion. But you know, that's just me. Do you have some thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the beautiful thing about football is that you're trying to find more efficient, easier ways to win. You're trying to people are we've seen a lot of innovation from a coaching standpoint in this game, and this game encourages innovation. However, I the one thing that I think with the tush push, like shout out to Mike was not that's not Sirianni for helping create this play and it turning into what it is. I mean, it is dominant, like you were talking about before. But for me, I think the only issue I have with it is defensive players don't have a way to practice against it. That would probably be my biggest knock to it is that obviously with the NFLPA coming down and things like that, there's already less padded practices. But the thing about, football is that what makes it work is that the opponent gets to compete. And part of the competition is preparation. And because of how the play is set up and the fact that it is special, like, yeah, I think it's weird because it is an advantage and you earn that advantage, but there's not even a way for other teams to counter it because they can't practice it in practice. So to me, that's probably the only thing that I think about it. That's literally the only thing that I care about in regard to the play is the fact that it puts defensive players at such a disadvantage. And we already know how much of a disadvantage they are now in this NFL anyway when it pertains to offense. But now we can't even really practice this. We can watch all the film, all the film, all the film, but we can't physically figure out how to do this besides in game. And by that time, I mean, you're done for. So that's my argument about it. And that's about all I got. So
Got you, got you. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with the tush push. To me, again, I find it quite funny. We do have a guest that jumped into the well, a guest, or we have someone that's jumped into the Touring the AFC South inbox. That would be Kyle B. He said hello. He's going to joining us from LinkedIn, and he said, "Go Jags." Well, we will be talking about the Jags, Kyle. They're going to be, maybe about halfway through the show, if not maybe a little further. But we are going to get to talk about your Jacksonville Jaguars. But up first, of course, on this episode, I do want to value my guest that I have on the show and talk about her Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? I had to do it one
please.
time. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. I had to do it one time. But but as far as the Cowboys, free agency was definitely interesting. I'll talk about that first. But around the league, everyone was doing things except for the Cowboys. Just it did some maybe smaller things. What were your thoughts on just their whole free agency?
Um, I think that Dallas has lost some depth pieces. Obviously, depth was a problem in certain positions last year, especially towards the end of the year. I mean, they were going on the street looking for corners and stuff like that, as they always have. So I think most of the gentlemen that they brought in are gentlemen that are going to be, you know, rotational pieces. Now, two of the wild cards that I'm looking for on that from the free agency signings are, I think Jack Sanborn, linebacker out of Chicago, is someone that is going to help boost the run game from the linebacker position. Obviously, DeMarvion Overshown is still recovering from his injury, his knee injury, and whereas knowing DeMarvion, he's probably going to be ahead of schedule and all that stuff because that's just how he gets down. You need a guy that likes to squeeze the run, that's not afraid to scrape, that's not afraid to play through trash. And Jack Sanborn is a guy that I think brings you that. Dante Fowler is obviously, had his best year to date, 10.5 sacks with the Commanders. Being able to get him back, he is going to be probably a more third down guy because I feel like we saw elevated snaps kind of wear on him in Washington. So again, I expected for him to be in kind of a rotational role. Now, Miles Sanders is interesting to me because he thinks he still has a lot in the tank. And so we'll see how this running back room shapes out after I'm crossing my fingers and praying that the Cowboys decide to get a running back in this draft. So keeping an eye on that. But more importantly, Javonte Williams, the running back out of Denver, just 24 years old, is a guy that's extremely hard to tackle. I'm really curious to see how Clayton Adams, our new offensive coordinator from the Cardinals, is able to use him and get him involved. He's a gentleman that I think 2 years removed from an ACL, we could see him kind of form back into some of what we thought he was going to be in the first place. And if one or two of those guys kind of hit, then in Cowboys world, we're fine. Because I mean, listen, at this point, we know how this team handles free agency, so we understand that one or two of these guys is going to have to bolster and make a difference for us to feel comfortable at this point. So that's what we betting on. That's what the Cowboys betting on, and let's see what happens.
All right, all right. So, of course, I do have to hit on the news of the day, which, of course, Joe Milton getting traded from the New England Patriots to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, of course, it's Joe Milton and a seventh-round pick to the Dallas Cowboys for a fifth-round pick. So, what are your thoughts on Joe Milton being added to this quarterback room in Dallas?
It's interesting because when you go look within Joe Milton's game, there's a lot of similarities to Trey Lance, truly. But I do think that Milton has a little bit more certainty with his arm talent. Obviously, he has more playing time in general, so that's something that can't be discounted. Obviously, Dallas sees his ability to stand in the pocket and take some tough hits and throw the ball, but also be able to do some things outside the pocket. Now, I do think his mechanics and some of his decision making and some of those things is stuff that can improve his pacing, his patience. But I think he's just another guy that is going to be able to sit behind Dak and develop, and that's fine with me. Dallas has kind of been in limbo from the backup quarterback position. Obviously, Cooper Rush is a gentleman that has went on to better things, but I think it's a good fit for what you need right now. And it also allows this young man to get a change of scenery and to, sit behind one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL right now and grow as a player. And you don't have to go in the draft and grab a guy now. And I think that's beneficial as well for the Cowboys.
Okay. All right. All right. One other thing, or maybe two other things we'll talk about it. One thing I will tell you about Joe Milton, I did watch him play at the University of Tennessee. Definitely a strong arm. One thing he can do though, he can throw the ball country mile. Now, is he going to hit that target at a country mile is the question. And then also the touch. He never, I would say, since he played at Michigan and Tennessee, the touch has always been a thing that has been questionable about him as well, especially with the mid to intermediate or shorter passes. So that'll be interesting to see how that develops. But I do want to get your thoughts on the 12th overall pick, which the Dallas Cowboys hold. They could definitely draft an impact player there. But who would you love to see land in a Cowboys uniform with the 12th overall pick?
I mean, I think right now the buzzy name is Ted McMillan. It's kind of difficult to not think that he is gonna be there. Now, I know that because people have some mixed emotions about some of his toughness and things like that, but I do think he's a gentleman that's going to be there and be available for Dallas. I think he would be fantastic to pair with a CeeDee Lamb with his range, his size. Dallas has struggled mightily in the red zone. I think he gives you a little bit more of juice in that department as well. Also, too, I mean, Dallas is in a weird place at cornerback right now. Like, I don't know if they would go corner that early, but you have a Travis Hunter, you have a Will Johnson, you have some guys that are there now. Travis is probably gonna be gone. But Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. There's some gentlemen that I think could help. Dallas really has to figure out the cornerback situation. They lost Jordan Lewis to the Jags, which I know we're going to talk about as well. So Trayvon Diggs is still recovering from his injury last year. So it's slim pickings as far as, the cornerback position. So I can see them going wide receiver or corner. I'm really hoping that it's running back or wide receiver because I want skill positions. I want skill positions, man.
I hear you. I understand. But I do have one other quick question for you. And of course, we can't talk Dallas Cowboys and not talk Micah Parsons. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Jerry and his stories. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, Jerry said he's been talking to Micah personally about something and, whatever. And then Micah says, "Hey, I need you to talk to my agent." Nobody's talked to my agent, which I find that hilarious that he does. And then he said he doesn't know who this agent is or hasn't talked to him. And I'm like, it's David Mogeda. How do you not know who that guy is, man? But what is just your thoughts on Jerry being Jerry again and them always waiting to the last minute on these contracts?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. Now I understand there's a lot of factors we don't know about, and even if the people who think they don't know. Like they're not
Mm-hmm.
on a direct line or anything. So it is frustrating, especially with someone with Micah who has been very vocal about the fact that he wants to be here, he intends to be here, and he's willing to work with the team to, not saying he needs to because I want him to make his money, but he's willing to work with the team to come to a fair consensus. And obviously it just keeps going up and keeps going up and keeps going up, and that's frustrating. But I will say, yeah, that's just how Jerry is, man. That back and forth kind of horseplay, kind of whatever, like acting like he don't know the guy. I mean, come on, Jerry. Like I was I was sitting here like, didn't I know he'd not just say he don't know who this man is. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just kind of how things are in that regard. I'm hoping they get it figured out because, Micah's already said he is going to be at, training camp and those things, but it's still a distraction, and it's just not necessary at this point to me.
Yeah, just to help Jerry out, David Mogeda, he's the guy that has the top three highest paid corners and also has the top three highest paid safeties. So defense is his specialty right now. Just want to give you that little tip out there, Jerry Jones. Okay, but we are going to hit a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna dive into the AFC South. My neck of the woods. Just a little bit. We're gonna start it off with the Tennessee Titans and the number one overall pick on tour in the AFC South. We'll be right back.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off on these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get this the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, and we are back on tour in the AFC South. And like I mentioned before the commercial break, we got to talk about the team that's got the number one spot. What? No, I
Please
took it back. I took it back a little bit there.
get a grip.
You know, yeah, I know. I'm having too much fun. But got to talk about these Tennessee Titans. Of course, they got the number one spot. Quarterback Cam Ward, of course, he seems to be the consensus number one pick in this draft. Of course, plenty have already said, hey, the Titans, they got this, they got that, they're going to get this guy. But, they haven't confirmed that, though. They actually are still going through their all their scenarios, talking about, they may get, they're checking out Shedeur Sanders, they've checked out Travis Hunter, they've checked out, a lot of different pieces, Abdul Carter, they've checked him out too. They basically are doing their due diligence. Do you feel the Titans are not committing just yet to Ward to kind of make a move or looking for a move, or do you think they're just doing their due diligence before they select Cam Ward number one overall?
Well, let me first say that Cam Ward is by far the best quarterback in this draft. I would say he's the most complete quarterback in this draft. Just obviously the experience he has, the time he has, he's worked in other schemes, he's been able to stay healthy, he's efficient. I mean, the numbers on third down, just like this is a NFL ready quarterback. Obviously, he's young, he's going to deal with some stuff in the league, but yeah, I think he's arguably the best quarterback in this draft. But I will say in regards to the Titans, I mean, Amy Adam Strunk, I think it's Strunk. I believe.
Strunk, yeah.
Yes, the owner. She went down and met with him directly after his pro day in Miami. I think that says something. That's not something that happens typically a lot in this business, or people don't know about it. I think they want people to know about it clearly. I'm not gonna try to complicate it personally. I know that, you know, like draft time gets kind of weird because people are like, okay, well, maybe they're gonna go Shador, maybe they're gonna do these things or whatever. I think a scouting department is looking at this player and saying, this is the best quarterback in this draft. Let's just go get them. Like, obviously, they're going to do their due diligence, but some stuff you don't have to overcomplicate. And Cam Ward is not someone that I believe you need to overcomplicate.
Okay, well, just to kind of, you know, I guess play devil's advocate. Say they do pick someone different.
Okay, I mean,
who would you think they would select if they didn't pick, if Cam Ward wasn't the first pick?
I mean, I think Shador is a gentleman that is going to go probably only second to Cam Ward. I think he might go higher than what maybe people expect. Even so, he's had a weird draft experience. I don't know why people are so hung up on some of his personal stuff. But I think their IQs between Cam Ward and Shador are similar. Obviously, again, Cam Ward is more experienced in a sense. He's seen multiple systems. But I do think that the footwork from Cam Ward is more clean. The mechanics are a little bit more clean, especially inside the pocket. So if a team decides to take Shador instead of Cam Ward, I'm sure a lot of people would question that. But it's not a huge difference as far as like some of the things they do well, some of the things they don't do well. I just think that Cam Ward does it better in a lot of the stuff. So also too, Jackson Dart is a guy that is, I think he's risen his stock through this process. I got to see him at the Senior Bowl, and he's kind of a gunslinger too, man. He's not hesitant. He can throw a ball on a rope. He's another guy that's still working through the accuracy and things like that, but he's very young. He's moldable. So if, you know, possibly the Titans say like, okay, we want a young guy or younger guy that we know is going to develop here and pick up all of his tendencies really here, maybe that's an option as well. But I can't see it, Brody. I can't see it. Personally, I can't see it.
Got you. Hey, you know, gotta play a little bit of devil's advocate. But you know, in just regard to the whole draft for the Titans, I mean, I know they need a QB. They did invest in the offensive line, and of course Dan Moore and Kevin Zeitzer, and then, you know, of course, moving JC Latham over to the right tackle from the left tackle. But can you see anything else they potentially need when it comes to this draft?
I'm trying to think. I think I wrote it down, some of the stuff that they are looking for. Yeah,
I'd say maybe an edge rusher potentially.
Yeah. No, taking a look at them. Yeah, I think that they definitely could use an edge, maybe a safety.
Okay.
They're in I don't know. I feel like that whole division is kind of in a weird place where everybody needs something. So it's like, just go BPA and go about your business. Just go about your business, Brody. So yeah,
I got you. Okay. All right. We're kind of, you know, we're going to talk about, you know, Jacksonville next, you know, kind of moving off of Titans, going to Jacksonville. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have the number 5 pick, and in every draft board, except for like maybe one, I've seen them picking the same player. That would be interior defensive lineman Mason Graham from Michigan. Now, I think he's a very talented player. Of course, you know, they're talking about his arm length and things like that or whatever, which, you know, they're getting a little bit more technical than I really want to get. Can he play or not is what I really want to know. So in your opinion, I mean, what do you think of this guy, Mason Graham, and just his physical play? Have you had the chance to take a look at him?
Yeah, absolutely. Super cool. I was down at scouting school with the Senior Bowl, and we had a exercise where we had multiple players. We had to be able to put out like a scouting report for that player, and Mason was one of my guys. So I got to watch him early last year. So I've been kind of hip to his ability for a minute. The footwork, the ability, like the movement. I mean, we think about how, Brendan Fisk put on a clinic at the combine. Again, I don't think Mason is that elusive, but Mason's quickness and suddenness off the line of scrimmage is going to be stressing to centers and guards as he continues to develop. Not trying to be funny or nothing, man, but he's another one of those no-brainer guys to me, that if he's there,
Okay.
you get him. But I will say, when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, I was taking a look at them, and some of the needs that they have are offensive line, the interior kind, a defensive tackle, obviously. And then they're also looking for some extra receiver help, I think, as well. They were very heavy in their free agent signings, trying to get some things taken care of. They broke my heart, took my Jordan Lewis away from me, nickel corner from the Cowboys. I'm not exaggerating that it took me about 3 or 4 days to get over it, because Jordan is somebody that has taught me a lot. And also, too, he really is the engine of that Dallas Cowboys defense. Like, I don't think people understand. So they lost him. They brought over Eric Murray, the safety from the Texans. That's a starter. Brought over Patrick McCarry, the guard from the Ravens. Robert, I cannot read my own handwriting. I think it's Hainsey from Tampa Bay. He's a center.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Denami Brown from the Commanders. I think he needed a change of scenery. Not that he was a bad player, because I've watched him numerous years, and he has the ability to take the top off. Chumi Doga, Cowboys swing tackle from last couple of years, they brought him over as well. They brought in a couple of tight ends. To me, they have several needs, but I think the biggest needs they have, sorry, I skipped a part, is DT, cornerback, defensive end, safety, and maybe an offensive piece if they can find it. But defensive tackle is one of their key needs. So it can be a corner or a defensive tackle with the Jags, to me.
Okay. Well, and speaking of a corner, what if, we're going to play the what if game just real quick. What if Travis Hunter was to somehow still be available at that number 5 spot? How fast do you race to the podium to select that man?
Oh, I think it's one of those things that you don't wait on, because if I did my research the right way, they are looking for cornerback help. So you will get cornerback help. And I think the Jags, given everything that they have on the offensive side right now, have the flexibility to bring in a guy like Travis and be like, you go play corner. But with Liam Cohen and how crazy he can be, I think they would give him some offensive opportunities, and I think he would fit well. I mean, when you look at the Jags offensive, their receiving core is Denami Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., Gabe Davis, Parker Washington, who was trending up last year, Josh Cephas, a guy that I saw at the Shrine Bowl that has a little juice to him as well, and then Britton Strange, their tight end, that people are really looking to take a jump this year. They have a nice little cast over there. So if you add Travis Hunter to that, just situationally, and then also have him playing corner, if that is something they decide to do, I don't know. I know a lot of people are like, he needs to pick one. I mean, you're kind of getting the best of both worlds, man. And even if they just don't touch him offensively, he's still going to be a solid corner. So I would be sprinting, hopping, running to the podium for Travis Hunter.
One thing I would say is, for me, you would probably see the fastest 40 in human history running to that podium.
You stupid, man.
All right. Now, of course, I do have to ask as well. We have mentioned his name, and I'm not sure if he's going to go this high, but we did mention Ted McMillan earlier. Would you be surprised if they do take a wide receiver at number 5? I've heard his name mentioned some with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Really? I would be surprised. I would be surprised given everyone I just named off to you right now. That's a solid cast, man. Like you being greedy at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You don't need to do all of that. And I think that the Jags have a lot of needs again to fill in that are more so on the defensive side of things than to really be trying to pour into their offense a whole bunch right now, personally. So hopefully the Jags fans are not like, you shall not pass. So, but yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Jacksonville Jaguars, they got some decisions to make, and so do the Colts, and so do the Texans. We're going to get into the Colts, get into the Texans right after this commercial break on Touring the AFC South.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on Touring the AFC South. And like I mentioned before the commercial break, we still got two other teams to talk about in this division, the AFC South, and we're going to start with the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Indianapolis Colts will be drafting at the 14th overall pick, and if you're Indianapolis, looking at their overall team, who do you go after with that 14th overall pick?
So I'll keep my ears low to the ground. It sounds like the Colts are looking for a tight end, man. It sounds like they are very hell bent on bringing in a guy like a Tyler Warren, a Colston Loveland, a Fannin. They also are really looking to bolster their linebacker room. Now, I don't know if there's a linebacker that is going to go this soon. I mean, well, they're 20? No, what pick are they? 14th?
14th.
Possibly. There's a couple guys that people are really high on, like a Jaheed Campbell, of course, and some of those guys that maybe might go that high. We've seen a weird flux of linebacker. I've been a lot more impressed with the linebackers this year as I've gotten into but like initially I was like, dang, this linebacker class ain't that good. But once you get into it, you find some diamonds. Yeah, for me, I wrote down tight end, safety or corner, linebacker, and offensive line. I think those are some of the positions they're going to be going after, but heavy on the tight end and linebacker for the Colts. What you think?
Okay. All right. Well, honestly, I was going to throw another question out there to you. I think that, in terms of tight end, yeah, I could see that one, but I did have another one in mind, and this goes with my next question. Michigan cornerback Will Johnson. People have mentioned him around 11, but I do think he could potentially slip to the Colts. I mean, do you think that's somebody they could use with the secondary issues they've had?
Possibly. I mean, every year people think that we're not going to have a run on a position, and it comes early, whether it's quarterback and people, something unexpected happens. People trade up, trade down, or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, Will Johnson, again, just a smooth operator in how he plays the position. He's not afraid to take the ball away. I think the Colts, their secondary last year had some good spurts. But they are looking for some more consistency, and this is a guy that's going to get your offense more possessions as well. I mean, 6 interceptions since 2023, no TDs allowed. I mean, he's a player. So, I mean, why not? I do think a corner is going to go that early. I think a corner might go at like 10. Mm-hmm. And if it is going to be one, it's probably going to be Will Johnson. So, they did bring in a couple of guys in free agency. Yep.
Mooney Ward and Cam Bynum.
Yeah. And then also too on the offensive line, they brought in Will Fries, the guard. He's coming off of the tibia, but I really had interest in him for Dallas. Hold
on. No, he actually left. He went to the Vikings.
Where?
He went to the Vikings.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant.
Him and Ryan Kelly.
Yes, that's what I meant. So those are big losses for them on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously losing their center as well. So it's like they do have a need for a guard. Now I do see them maybe throwing us a wrench and going to a Kelvin Banks, who a lot of people think is going to be a better guard, but might have some flexibility at tackle. It's a toss up to me with them. So don't be surprised if they go offensive line too.
Yeah,
You know, we've
I was gonna
seen
say, yeah.
Trevor running for not Trevor. We've seen them running for their lives, and also too, I think that I do think that their quarterback is still trying to get some confidence in the pocket, and kind of shoring up that offensive line, I think, will help him too.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big year for Anthony Richardson,
Huge.
or it could be Daniel Indiana Jones. You know, they're trying to call him Indiana Jones now, which I think is they got to stop all that foolishness. That's disrespect. That's disrespect to Harrison Ford to me. But it's, you know, I could definitely see them going offensive line and potentially diving into that realm, or, you know, cornerback, or, you know, of course, tight end with Tyler Warren. But, you know, they have been down this tight end road before, and look at all the tight ends they have drafted that have not panned out. So
yeah, but they've
I
also
don't know.
some guys that are like, we see it, but we still need to see it. Tyler Warren is like a short player. Like, you watch him, and it's just like, when you watch a tight end, there's a way that they move their body, the way that they turn upfield, their vision, things like that. He's such a natural. I think he's kind of different than some of the guys they've looked at in the last couple of years.
Okay, he does kind of give me a little bit of Dallas Clark flavor, to be honest.
And
He really
Dallas
does.
Clark is extremely underrated, but one of the best tight ends in this game right now. So.
I know. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I thought you said
all right.
Goddard. I'm talking about Goddard. I'm talking about Dallas Goddard. I'm like, yeah, Dallas
Yeah,
Goddard.
I know.
You
I
knew
know
what
who
I
you
meant.
I know what you meant. I know what you meant. But we're gonna kind of slide over to the Houston Texans for the last team in the division. Boy, oh boy! Now Houston, yeah, they shook things up just a little bit. You know, shook the table, traded away guard Kenyon Green to the Eagles for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a safety, and then also traded tackle Laramie Tunsil for some draft picks to the Commanders. So at the 25th overall pick, I mean, they, you know, what impact players could you see go falling there? And honestly, are there any of those not an offensive player, an offensive lineman?
Nah, man. Like they show. Some people show their hand. Some people show their hand in the game. You know, some people like. I was listening to what was it? Nick Casario. He was on the Sports Radio 610, and he said in regard to the trade, he said it wasn't something they intended on doing, or that they were motivated to do. It just felt best for the team because Washington had a need. They got on the phone like, hey, and it just seemed like it was one of those things that just happened, as opposed to people being like, oh, this person isn't good anymore and all this stuff. Now with I don't know. I feel like it is kind of taboo because you're going to be bringing a youngin into a spot where I don't want CJ Stroud running for his life, man. Like, he already kind of took a step back last year, and a lot of that was based off of protection. So it is it's kind of unnerving that they would set themselves up for this. But again, I think a guy like Kelvin Banks is going to be there, again, a tackle, but I think people might move him to a guard, Josh Simmons, who is coming off of I don't think he's coming off of a foot injury, or I believe, and he is still rehabbing from that, but he did a little bit of a pro day. He looks fantastic. He's definitely the best tackle in this draft. And then also too, Gray Zabel, had the beauty of seeing him at the Senior Bowl, and he is crazy. I mean, as far as like the hand fighting, the hand technique, the way he just doesn't give up on a rep, they'll have options there for the tackle position, but they have set themselves up to have to draft tackle. Like, what else are they gonna do?
Yeah,
Do you have any bright ideas of what they're gonna do?
No, I'm just thinking about all the pieces that aren't there anymore. They got Kenyon Green that's not there. He was a former first round pick. You have Laramie Tunsil. They let him go. They cut Shaq Mason, who was their starting guard last year. I mean, they've got a lot of work to do. They brought in some pieces. They did trade for a piece that was a backup center, I believe, in Minnesota, so to kind of compete for the position. They did bring in Laken Tomlinson, who was a veteran guard. So they did bring some pieces in. But, yeah, they got to figure out that O-line because, I mean, you know, I'm pretty sure other teams would love to see CJ Stroud running around for his life back there, but I'm pretty sure Houston Texans fans do not want to see that at all. But I do have another question here. They do also have an interesting wide receiver room. You got Nico Collins, you've got Christian Kirk, back-to-back injury years. You've got let's see, you've got John Mechie, his second year being back healthy.
Okay.
You've got some interesting scenarios there at wide receiver. So could you potentially see them drafting another weapon for CJ Stroud? I mean, also I got to throw in there Tank Dell, more than likely, just from all reports, he probably won't be back. If he is back at the end of the season, late, or the playoffs, but it's not expected for him to be back either. So could you see them potentially going for a wide receiver at this part of the draft?
Yeah, I think a guy like Emeka Egbuka could fit what they do there. The thing about Emeka, he is not super flashy. He is not going to do a whole bunch of standing out. What stands out to you is the consistency and just how natural the position comes to him. And I think that is a trait that Tank Dell had as well, and has as well, is that the position just seems natural to him. He can play on the inside, he can play on the outside. He's well studied. I do think a guy like Emeka from Ohio State will be there. He's a little taller than Tank Dell, but he does have some of that elusiveness as well. So, yeah, maybe. I know that there's some concerns with Ibuka with some of his past injuries. So maybe, especially with what's been happening with Tank Dell, they're a little leery. But I do think he is a gentleman that will be there in that spot if they decide to take him.
Okay. All right. Well, definitely another guy I want to throw out there to you, Luther Burden. I think he's kind of slid a lot, but I'm just kind of interested as to some of it. I'm interested in why. Some of it I know why. Just because, of course, he is athletic. He can move around all these different spots, which would be good for Houston. But of course, I think the route running, I think, kind of is interesting. For some people think is interesting, but I think he's an explosive athlete that would add a lot to that offense and give you kind of the Tank Dell things that they were missing.
I mean, you don't think he's too much like Nico?
No. He's actually a shorter guy, so he's
Yeah,
like 5'11", but he kind of is. He's a guy that I think he can do the type of things that Tank Dell do in terms of the explosion and type of thing. So that's why I kind of was going with him. He really into his game.
Sure. No, for sure. I think Luther is a lot more, like you said, explosive, and he pops off the screen more, even more than Ibuka. Like, I think that's the difference. Now with Luther, I think it's sometimes people in this game, the further you get into the draft process, people just be trying to find something wrong. Like, they're like, oh no, this guy's too good to be true, or they try to find a reason not to draft a guy, and I think Luther's kind of suffering from that right now, but. He also too has a fire to him, like he has a want to, like he fights back to the ball for his quarterback and stuff. And that's something that CJ Stroud is missing, especially with Tank Dell being gone. So I would be I think that they should be open to that as well, if he's there.
Okay. All right. Well, we have gone through all the teams of the AFC South. We did talk about the Dallas Cowboys, and that ends all the questions I have except for the game, which we have at the end of every show. It's 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. Well, every show we have a guest, I should say. I'm keeping it pretty football on this one. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm going to try my best. I'm not good at this type of stuff because I'm an overthinker, but we're going to try.
All right, we got Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston. You got one quarterback for comedic candor. Who are you taking?
Oh, it's gonna be Jameis, because don't get me wrong, they 2 different types of funny. Like, yeah, they 2 different types of funny. Jameis is that cousin that you be seeing at the reunion funny, and Russell Wilson is funny like Carlton from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air funny. So
not Carlton. Oh.
Carlton was funny, but he was funny in a different type of funny as well. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I got you. Okay. All right. Gus Johnson or Kevin Harlan. These are both announcers that everyone loves to listen to with the excitement and zeal that they do announcing with. If you had to pick one to announce your life, which one would you pick?
Oh God, why would you do that? Can I ask you? That's not fair. They're two of the best.
Very
Um,
much, very much.
it'd probably be Gus.
Yeah, Gus. Look, I would say Gus all day. Even though I like Kevin Harlan, Gus all day for me. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
definitely
just so
I'm with you on Gus.
recognizable and it feels like your childhood. And I don't know.
Hmm.
I think it'll be
He
good.
could do anything and make it exciting. He could
Hmm.
do anything and make it exciting. Yeah. All right. Here's one that may hurt a little bit. All right. You got to pick one team to win the Super Bowl. Is it the 49ers or is it another team in the NFC East?
You hate me or something?
No, I do not. But hey, I enjoy putting tough questions out there.
I'm about to throw up. Um, another team in NFC East.
Ooh,
As
yeah.
crazy as it sounds,
Mm-hmm.
God, I hate to say it. Like, I enjoyed seeing Washington play well last year. I did. I enjoy seeing them grow. Sometimes when new coaches come in and a new staff comes in and stuff, things don't always go well. But obviously, we're very familiar as Cowboys folks with a lot of those guys over there that have jump started, trending in the right direction. And you build relationship with those people and stuff. And even though they're like our enemies, you still want to see them do well. So I would say the Commanders.
Okay. All right. Fox or the Fox theme song for football or the Monday Night Football theme song? Which one are you taking?
What does the Fox one sound like? Is it dun, 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 dun?
That one.
Okay, and then what does the Monday night one sound like?
Oh, the usual. Ready for some football? Monday Night Showdown. But they used to have that one, the old school one. I
It's
gave you
gonna
the
have to
old
be
school
the
one.
it's gonna have to be the Fox one for me.
Okay. All right. All right. I gave you the old school one, but of course the other one has all kind of stuff in it. But let's see. Last question. This one's Dallas Cowboys all the way on this one.
Mm-hmm.
You got one, you're taking one quarterback. Are you taking Dak Prescott or are you taking Tony Romo?
Dak.
Dak. Okay. All right. All
You
right.
know,
I figured you might have to think about that one a little bit.
yeah, I had to think about that one a little bit more. I'm biased. Some
Okay.
people be
I
trying to act
got
like
you.
they're not. In this instance, I'm a little biased.
Hey, I understand. I understand. I played against Tony Romo in college, so
Oh, that's dope.
that was that it wasn't dope for me. Not that
It's
day.
done, dog. Like the improvising and thinking on his feet and stuff is something like to
He he
behold.
he didn't have to do all that against us. He didn't have to do all that against us. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Just gonna leave it at that. But that is 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. You are off the hot seat. I want to thank you again for coming on the show. If you can, tell everyone where they can find you on social media, what all you have going on, and more with you.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Twitter at Iisha Morrison, as spelled down here at the bottom. It's Iisha with 2 I's. I am on Girls Talk, Boys Talk. It is an all women's podcast with the Cowboys every Tuesday at 1 p.m. during the off season. I'll be doing some draft stuff in the coming weeks. So if you have any questions or anything, you can reach out to me. I'm pretty interactive, and thank you so much for having me on, Mike.
Yeah, of course, of course, of course. My name is Mike Padden. I am the host of the show. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter. I will not call it X because the only X I recognize is DMX and Malcolm X. So you can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton82. It's MikePaton82, and you can also find me on Blue Sky there as well. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at that's THA, not THE, _general_MP. And touring the AFC South, you can find on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. And we're also on YouTube. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Touring the AFC South. There will be more draft stuff coming. Yes, there will. We will be talking it all the way up to the draft. You just got to stay tuned to see who's coming on next. Thank you all for tuning in for this episode of Touring the AFC South. We're out. Peace.